So today is a very special day. I am so excited to be here with Carrie Davis, who is the Vice President of Employee and Patient Experience at Hanger. Carrie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us.
I'm delighted. Thank you for the invite.
Of course. And so before we start talking about this important topic about seeking yourself through service, what does that mean? Is it important? Why is it important for work? Why is it important for us personally? I thought I would ask a little bit about you first. And so, what inspired you to ascend in your leadership and, do a TED Talk and not only, to be an expert in your field, but also to be a thought leader?
Oh, that's a very loaded question, and let's see if I can get it all out in one answer. I like to say that I was born to do this work. I actually was born in 1971 with a congenital upper limb difference. So I was born missing my left arm. And so I came into the world. It was a surprise to my parents that I was a girl because we weren't using ultrasound technology to determine the gender of babies in utero. But the bigger surprise was that I was missing my left arm. And that kind of kicked me into the world of prosthetics. And I was fit with my first prosthesis when I was 9 months old. And I'll be 54 this summer. And so I've grown up in this industry, and my life has really evolved and transformed as technology has transformed. So to say that I aspired to ascend to lead patient and employee experience for the largest prosthetic provider in the United States, I didn't. I literally fell into this by accident, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And I think, the way I lead and the way I guess I have ascended to the position that I hold today um, really stems from my childhood and this sense of not knowing where I belonged. I was, having a prosthesis and being the only child in my elementary school to wear a prosthesis. It put all eyes on me, really made me feel like I'm not sure where I belong or if I belong. And so that's kind of what kicked off the way I lead anyway, is I really want to make sure that people know that, I mean, belonging is it's emotional experience of being accepted and valued and appreciated for who you are, everything that you are. And so I hid a lot of who I was in an effort to make people feel comfortable. And I don't want that for anyone that I encounter.
Yeah, and that is so important and transformative. And so, excuse me, as a young person, who helped you through this? Because I think when we were talking about this before, you were like, I don't know. You were running and jumping and like doing everything everyone else did. And so who was really formative in you, being a leader even as a young person?
Well, I think my parents, particularly my mother, she made an effort and a point to make opportunities for me to belong. So, like for example, she was the leader of our campfire group, right? And she brought people in to me and made my limb difference very acceptable in my peer group. So she is such a servant. She just took care of our family as mothers do. But she was a leader in our community, and she was giving and thoughtful, and she really inspired me to be the person that I am.
Yeah. So that's awesome. And so when it comes to the mindset that, allowed you to keep going and to ascend, and a lot of times when people might see your title and think that you were born into the world as a vice president, that it was easy, there are no hiccups along the way. So was that necessarily the case? And if you did have some challenges, what was the mindset that helped you keep going?
I think so. The challenges were probably self-induced. That sense of, do I belong here? Do I have the qualifications? That maybe that imposter system or a syndrome that made me feel I don't know if I'm qualified to do this. Those challenges were pretty self-induced because when I leaned into that element of service, that adopting that servant mindset, it became very easy, right? My initial desire is to just help people, and then I made the conscious choice to lead, and that's really what servant leaders do. And when you adopt a servant mindset, you prioritize listening, you prioritize healing, you prioritize building community, and those are really those kinds of things. Empathy, people gravitate to those kinds of things when you are in a position of leadership. You build trust, you are authentic. And so, yeah, while I had some challenges improving myself and my capabilities, um, I think that just leaning into that servant mindset is really what got me to where I am today.
Yeah. And so then when the title is Seeking Yourself Through Service. And
Mhm.
so what does that mean to you? And also, how can the rest of us, maybe if it resonates, kind of up level, the clarity that we have, or up level our level of service?
Well, seeking yourself through service really, for me, what this means is I got real in tune with who I truly am when I stopped worrying about what other people thought of me, whether I was qualified. When I put my ego aside and I turned my lens on, okay, let's not prioritize me for a minute. Let's think about how I can help others. That's really for me. The game changer in my life. And I like to think about, leaving the world, leaving a meeting, leaving an environment, leaving a person, a connection better than you found it. I think that if we were to all aspire to just leave something better than we found it, we would make the world a better place.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm wondering if it also applies to, the research says that, women typically, and this is the blanket comment, but I think it's the McKinsey report, the Women in the Workplace report says that women, we have to check 8 boxes. I don't know if that's right or not, but significantly more boxes than men are just like, eh, good enough. I have a couple of the things. And
Yeah.
so I'm just wondering if you seek yourself through service, because a lot of times when I first thought about this title, I think of serve like volunteering. But
Oh,
I really think if you have a service mindset and leadership, you can think about, well, where am I needed most? Who needs me most? How does the business need me? It's not what am I qualified for? What can I do? Because at the
yeah.
end of the day, some of the things I think that we're worried about, we can learn.
I would agree 100%. And, part of adopting a servant mindset, and you're right, it's not about volunteering. It's not about, any of that. It's really about where can I be of the most help? And it's to the organization, to the individual. I think about when I'm making decisions, or when I'm asking people to take on tasks, or to prioritize the things that I think are priorities. I always ask myself, what's my motivation and what's my intention? If my motivation is to help and my intention is to bring about something good, to have an impact, then I'm on the right path. Then I've sought myself through service and I'm seeking my highest self. Right? That's what I mean by seek yourself through service. It's like you can get in touch with, we wear different masks, we wear different personas in different settings. But when we are leaning into really helping people empathetically, being a listener, building community, that's when you really get in touch with who you actually are supposed to be. And that's what I mean by seek yourself through service. What's your motivation? What's your intention? And you have to have self awareness for that. That would be my tip. Ask yourself those questions. What's your motivation and what's your intention? If it is to help somebody and bring a positive impact, then you're on the right path and you're getting to know your authentic self.
Yeah, and I think you can also draw courage from that. Like when you did your TED Talk, I know some people are terrified of public speaking, which is something I'm not now, but certainly didn't start off that way. But if you think about coming from a place of service, the next time you're on a stage, it's not about me, or maybe the TED Talk wasn't about you. It was about serving others and giving a gift a few minute gift to someone that might help them, it can give us courage because it takes the spotlight off us.
Yeah, I would agree. And honestly, it was a goal of mine to be on a TED stage. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's not like I was trying to serve my ego by achieving that
Yeah.
goal. What you are absolutely right about is I felt like I had a message that could potentially resonate with some people, and they could see, here's this woman who is considered disabled, right? But I haven't let that define me. I have actually defined myself on my own terms, and it is a person that wants to help other people. And so, and when I was little, I was really, really wrapped up in, oh my gosh, what do people think of me? How can I make them see me in a certain way? If I just lean into the best version of myself, then that's how I want you to see me, and that's what you'll see.
Yeah. And so, what would you say to someone who this makes sense to, but they're struggling with?
Oh, you know, I went through a period of time in my young life, and I would say probably in my 20s and 30s, and maybe even today, I don't know, where you have to decide, okay, if you're struggling, this resonates, but you're struggling to find the courage to do it. Baby steps make a
Mhm.
big impact. I remember when I wore a tank top in public for the first time, and you could see my prosthesis. And your listeners can't see my prosthesis if they're just listening and not seeing our conversation. But today, I wear a black carbon fiber forearm that's covered in Swarovski crystals. The light catches it. It sends beams. I'm like a human disco ball. And I went from being very self-conscious and covering up. But what I did is I would just push my shirt sleeve up just a very little bit, and I'd go out into the world and I would hold my chin up, I'd put my chest back, and I would pretend like, okay, I can do this, I'm confident. And I kept telling myself that. It really is a mindset. Like, when you adopt, when you just choose who you want to become and you just go practice, one day you wake up and you're like, am I still choosing this, or am I actually this person? It really is a decision. I was inspired by a refrigerator magnet that I saw that said, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I am going to create the persona that I want the world to experience. And it is a person who is kind, thoughtful, generous, and who is truly me. I'm not an insecure person. I'm not scared. I'm not fearful. I'm not, I am only those things if I choose those things. So I made a different choice.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too that there's probably room for improvement in all of us in some area of our life to really lean into this and gain or regain clarity on who we are and how to be even more authentic. And um, I was also wondering, sometimes people have differences that are visible, and but sometimes they're not visible. Do you think that what you're talking about is true for those who might have something that's invisible? So, maybe they're a war veteran, or maybe they have anxiety, or maybe I don't know. There's a whole host of things. And so I'm just wondering if you feel like this applies to them too.
I think it applies to everyone. I think we can find challenges that we all experience, whether it's a outwardly appearing physical disability or if it's an internal struggle. We're all struggling, and we all have the power within us to take those baby steps to find peace. And I do think that when you stop focusing on your struggles and you start focusing outward, you become more outward focused on what kind of positive impact you can have on others, then all of that noise about your own anxieties and fears and those kinds of things can quiet down a little bit, and maybe enough to the point where you can take that baby step and you can, but you can't do that if you're just, I think about therapy, and so therapy is so valuable, and it teaches you how to deal with the challenges that come your way. And if you're not doing therapy, if you're not talking through it and you're not getting help and support, you're stewing, right? And you're thinking about all of the things that make life hard. But when you focus your attention on how to make someone else's life better, you don't hear that noise anymore.
Yeah, so I love that. And so What can you offer up some ways that we can improve, like a couple call to actions to start doing this better, especially if we are a female leader looking to ascend in our career.
Yeah, I mean, I think just, being a servant leader, it's not like a static identity that you have. It's something that you have to assess kind of on a daily basis. How am I moving through the world? How are people feeling in my presence? And that's not to say that you have to change who you are, but if you think about how you want people to feel, I want people to feel uplifted. I want people to feel cared for, seen, valued, appreciated, and you act in those ways, then you are doing yourself a service as a leader, but you're really doing the service to the other people who really appreciate the way you're interacting with them. So it's a mindset that you have to, and a muscle that you have to flex every day to think about. I want to get some stuff done. I need my team, I need their support. How am I going to approach this? What am I going to say? What are the words? But most of all, if I could give you any advice, it's like, how do you want people to feel after you've left them? And act in a way that brings about that feeling.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So important. And is this different for leaders or executives versus rising female leaders?
The beautiful thing about servant leadership is you do not need a title to
Mhm.
inspire a movement. You can lead from the heart, from authenticity, empathy, and a desire to make other people's lives better. And then what happens is it inspires others. So I could start, at the very lowest level of my organization, which, by the way, I came into the organization 25 years ago. I didn't just come and become the vice president. It was a slow and steady ascension to the place I am today, through building trust, through always leaning into that authentic element of wanting to care for people and take care of people, and people appreciate that, and then it spreads. And so hope that answered your question. You don't need a title. You can do
Yeah.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah. So you heard it here. You do not need a title, and just gain some courage through being a servant leader. And just what you've learned from Carrie, just keep going, and keep leaning into that. Carrie, I really appreciate your time. I love all of the amazing things that you're doing. And I also look forward to continuing to follow your journey.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.